Good morning, friends. Hello, how are you this fine morning? Thanks for joining me today. If you're watching live, I would love for you to drop in the comments just a quick hi, hello, tell me where you're coming from. If you're watching on replay, make sure that you type replay so that I know that you were here and can come back and say hi. My name is Tiffany Huckelman, and I'm the founder of Lone Orange. We help solo entrepreneurs attract and keep more of their right clients. We do this through a process that I've developed that helps solopreneurs especially, really live their brand by knowing who they are, communicating that really powerfully, and then living that brand in all their daily interactions, which is super critical for a powerful client experience. And it's also critical for laying the foundation for growth, which is what we're going to talk about today. So today's topic is about growing your team and how to do that without losing your mind. So when I started my business almost 10 years ago, I'm coming up on 10 years, which I can't believe, but almost 10 years ago, when I started my business, I got into business and said, I do not want to have employees. I don't want to have anybody I have to manage. I had just come off of a job where I was managing and I hated it. So I said that I didn't want to have anybody else. I just wanted to do the work and kind of keep my head down, do the work, move forward, serve the clients, make money, and be happy. Well, as you can imagine, that didn't last long because as I got busier and busier and got more clients and was doing more of the work that I was setting out to do, I found that I was only one person and I had a capacity. And that capacity only allowed me to do so much work because I also had to market the business. I also had to do the admin and the invoicing and the bookkeeping. I also had to do all the behind the scenes work, not to mention client relations and doing the client work. As you know, a solopreneur wears all of those hats, and that's a lot to hold on to at times. And so I quickly realized that I quickly realized I had a choice to make. I either could stay the way I wanted, the way I started out to stay. Just me, getting the work done, running my business, living life and loving it. But that would come with a limit of what I could make, of the amount of work I could do, the amount of people I could impact. So there was definitely a limit because I'm human. There's only one person. There was only one of me. The other option was to start looking at bringing other people on to help me with some of the work. So that was my option. We'll go into that a little bit later. But so those were my options. I could stay where I was, or I could start looking at building the team. I decided to go ahead and start looking at building the team, but I had to figure out what that meant. And I definitely looked around for a long time to figure out, how do I grow a team? How do I bring on people? Because I was afraid. I was afraid that people wouldn't do it like me. I was afraid that the clients were hiring me, and so nobody else could do it besides me. I was afraid of the headache of managing people who weren't living up to my expectations, who weren't doing the work the way I wanted it done. I was worried about the Lone Orange way. Like, there was a way that I was operating business that I was coming from, and I wanted that feeling, I wanted that experience to carry through, and I was worried that if I brought other people on, that would change that experience way too much. And that scared me. That scared me a lot. So it took me a long time before I finally was ready to say, okay, I need to bring on other people. I can't do it all. And now I'm so grateful that I did, for several reasons. It's given me freedom. It's kept me doing what I love to do the most. It's kept me being able to be creative, staying in my zone of genius. And I love the team that I've built. I started off by bringing on an accountant, because I looked around and I decided that the first thing that I didn't need to be doing, that was not my expertise, and I didn't need to be spending my time, was bookkeeping. So I brought in a bookkeeper to help me on the monthly tracking of all my expenses and all that kind of fun stuff, so that I didn't have to do it so much. I still do a little bit. I haven't let it go entirely because I still feel like I need some management control, but I have a bookkeeper to do all that. Then I started finding people who could help me with the client work. And I looked for tasks that either weren't necessarily the best use of my time or things that could be done better by somebody else. And things that, what's the right way to put this, but things that had less of the stakes weren't so high. If it got messed up, I could either redo it myself quickly, or the stakes weren't so high that if something got messed up, that the world would explode, or that the client would be super unhappy. So I started finding people to help me with those little projects. And so that was kind of my practice. And so little by little, I did that more and more. And I finally, now I have an amazing virtual team whom I love. And I see Marissa's on right now, and she's one of the team. So hello, Marissa, you are one of our awesome team. But I started bringing, I have an assistant now who helps me. We meet every single week to go to, so that I can to follow up with things. I give her the tasks, and she helps me immensely. I have designers, I have web design people, I have copywriters, I have people, none of them are employees, because I am holding true to my initial thought that I didn't want to have employees. All of my team are contractors. And there's lots of different, there's pros and cons to both, and that's probably a whole nother discussion. But so I have a fantastic team now that I love. And I've built it very carefully. And there's a few things that I did that I think have led to the success of my team. Now, that said, I have definitely had people that I brought on who haven't worked out, but it took some trial and error to kind of figure that out. So I'm wondering, especially if you're a solopreneur, have you thought about, hey, gosh, it'd be nice if I had some help? Have you thought about, if I had other people, I could serve more of my clients better? Maybe some of those things have come to mind. And I would love, especially if you're on live, or even if you come back on a replay, if you've thought about that, type that in the comments. Why do you want to grow your business? Do you feel like there's just so much work that you're working nonstop, and it'd be nice to have some help with that? Do you feel like you're just juggling way too many balls and you're worried that things are going to fall through the cracks? Do you have some things that require skills that you don't have, that maybe you just really need some help with? Marissa says, oh, your videos are so helpful. That's awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I really do appreciate you on the Lone Orange team, because you've been amazing. So thank you. So what is, especially if you're a solopreneur looking to grow, or maybe if you already have grown, why do you want to grow? Why do you want to bring on that team? It can be a scary thing, especially as a solopreneur, because you got into business to do what you love. You didn't necessarily get into business to have people to manage, to have a whole team. So if you're at that place, like the crossroads that I was at, what is it that makes you want to grow your team? What I see a lot, and what I experience myself, is that we have a lot of fear around growing a team. And maybe it's around because maybe you're worried about diluting your brand. So you've created a way that you operate, and your clients have come to know and expect that. And you've done the work around knowing your brand and communicating your brand. And now you're being your brand, you're living that brand. And so you're doing it the way you want to do it, because it's innate and it's just the way you operate. So what happens if you start bringing on other people? Doesn't that dilute your brand, because they're going to behave differently? What if they don't do it the way you want it done? And now you have to manage people. Is that going to be a huge headache? There's a lot of fear and angst that can go around that, a lot of worry around that. But if you decide, but here's some reasons, or here's some things to think about when thinking about if this is the right thing for you or not. One, what's your zone of genius? Where do you operate the best? Where are you most creative? Where can you have the biggest impact for your clients and in your world? So that's number one. And I guarantee you, I would put money on the fact that there is something in your business that is not your zone of genius that somebody else could be doing for you. I guarantee it. Because for a business, there's so many aspects to running a business, and no one person can do it all really well. That may not sound nice. That may not feel right. That may not feel, it may not be what you want to hear, but it's the truth. So are there things that you're doing that are not your zone of genius that you could increase your impact in other areas if you were not doing those things? Are you working too much? Like, are you just working nonstop to get the client work done? Have you maxed out that capacity? And you need to free up some of your time so that you can have more impact. This is another hard one to hear, is the quality of your service declining because things are falling through the cracks, because you're working so much? That's where I was in large part. Things were just falling through the cracks because I was working so much and I was doing so much to get everything done that I was tired. I was dropping details, and the quality of service just was not where I wanted it to be, because I had high expectation for me and my business. So those are some things to look at to decide if it is indeed time for you to grow your business with a team. All right, so now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How do you go about doing that? Now, I will say, we're not going to get into today the recruiting and hiring of a team. That's a whole big other discussion. I figured out a great system for us, but it's probably better left to HR kind of professionals. But what I can tell you is how to start preparing yourself and your business and how to bring those people in. And as I mentioned, there are 3 steps to the process that I teach: the know, communicate, and be. So today we're in the be section, where we're now living the brand. And the easiest way for you to grow your team is systems. So you have the know and the communicate. So you know what your brand is, you know what your values are, and that sets the culture. So if you're hiring, you're bringing on team members, whether they're employees or contractors or part-time, full-time, however you're structuring them, as long as they match that culture that now you know, because you've done the know and the communicate work, if they match that culture, if they are aligned with your culture and your values and your company personality, and they buy into your mission and they align with what you're trying to do in the world, then they're going to be a good fit for the company. So once you have that, now what you can do is, if you have the systems in place, it is so much easier to bring on new people, because you have a system that you or eventually somebody else can train the new team member on, so that they know exactly what they have to do, exactly what's expected of them, exactly all of the expectations are outlined, all of the tasks and projects are outlined. It makes training so much easier. Okay, so you're like, yep, I get that, but how, Tiffany, how? I get it, because that's where I was. I totally was there. Like, how? I literally searched for years to figure out how to do this. So here's what I'm going to tell you. First of all, when I do this work with my clients, we have a whole process that we go through to figure out what are the systems that you have in your business, how do you need to document them, what order you're going to document them in, so you have a full structure. Today, I just want to give you a very actionable tip. Think of one project, one task, one role that you have that you think you can delegate, that it's not that's not something that you should be spending your time on. It's not your zone of genius. Somebody else could do it better. Whatever reason, what is one thing that you could do? For me, it was my bookkeeping. Now, I had been doing my bookkeeping. I knew how to run QuickBooks, so I was doing it, and it was fine. And I had a way of tracking things and doing things. So when I hired a bookkeeper, we sat down and we talked about how I was doing things so that they could do it the same way. So for you, it might be a bookkeeper as well. For you, it might be a virtual assistant to help with scheduling. Just because scheduling can be such a hassle of the going back and forth, and there are so many ways that that an assistant could actually help you. So you get you first of all figure out that first system that you want to, or that first problem task, not a problem, the first task that you want to document. And then you start, as you do it, start writing down the step by step that you do. Sam Jacobs, in his book called Work the System, goes into depth about how to design systems. And he talks about designing systems that any Joe off the street, any common Joe off the street could come in and do your system without any training. So I kind of look at it that way. It might be a little bit of a stretch, but in general, if you can write down step by step all of the things you do, and here's the pitfall that especially solopreneurs who are used to doing this stuff just forget, is think about the judgments that you are making in your own mind. Is it this? Then it's this. This is the next step I take. If it's this, then this is the next step I'm going to take. So what is it? What are some of those those decisions that you're making on the split second without even thinking about it? Think about those. Write those down in your system. That's how you start documenting those systems. When you do that, as you're going through the process, then the next time you go through that same process, test it. See if, as you're going through, look at what you documented. Are you following those same tasks? Are you making the same decisions and same judgments? That's kind of testing it. Then you can tweak it, and then you're ready to teach it to somebody else. So then you go find the bookkeeper or the virtual assistant or whoever you're bringing in to help with this. You give them that system. You walk them through the system. Usually what I do is then I'll kind of watch them the first time to see how they do, answer any questions, that sort of thing. And then they should be able to be let loose, because now they have the system. They have exactly what they need to go through the process. So you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours training them. You've got it right there for you. So what having these systems does is it makes sure that it's done the way you want it done. And it's not left up to arbitrary decisions by every person, because we all have different ways to do it, but it makes sure that it gets done the way you want it to get done. It maintains your culture. So if there are attitudes that you want to come through in these systems, you can track that. Plus, you've hired the right people because they align with the brand that you've identified. So that's powerful. Now you've got more time. I know it feels like a lot of time to develop these, and it does, but once you have them in place, you have more time because you're not spending time training or following up with people when they don't do it the right way, or answering questions that are repetitive and they have to ask every single time. So you're freeing up time, you're freeing up stress, because you don't have to worry about, is it being done right? Is my team on it? You know it's going to be done, and you know it's going to be done right because they have a checklist, they have procedures, they have processes to follow that you have given them, so they know exactly what you're expecting. So that is the power. And I will tell you what this has done for me in my business. Just what I've said, it's given me freedom. The business can run even when I'm not sitting in front of my computer doing things. My business can run when I'm off networking, when I'm at my son's school helping out for something, when I'm traveling over a long weekend, like we're traveling this weekend. When I'm on vacation, I was able to take a 4-week vacation last year because my team was here, but not here, but my team was on it. They knew what to do. They knew how to handle different situations because we worked that out. I was out of town for 4 weeks. And 95% of all of the work was handled by my team. That was pretty amazing. And I'm getting ready to do it again this summer. So, and we're not even worried about it because we know it's going to get done. We know that's going to be handled. So that freedom, oh my gosh, that freedom, the less stress, the less worry, the more time I have is remarkable. And yes, it's taken some work. Yes, it's been a lot of effort, but it has been so worth it. So if you are a solopreneur kind of on that verge, trying to figure out, is this the right thing for you? Are you ready to grow your team? How do I do that? Oh my gosh, it's scary. That's a big leap. I encourage you to do it. take this little baby step by picking your first task, documenting it, bringing somebody in, training them, and then you pick the next task and the next task, and it builds up until you have your whole library, your whole standard operating procedures, which is pretty exciting to have. So I hope that's helpful for you. I would love, if you're interested in learning more about developing these systems and the whole know, communicate, and be system, I would love to talk with you more about that. I'll put in the comments a link where you can schedule a call with me, and I would love to just talk with you about that and see where we can help you. The calls that I do are usually an insight call where we will actually look at where you're at with your business and figure out what's one thing that you can walk away to change your business to better know, communicate, and be your brand. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed being here with you. Please, again, if you're watching this on replay, type replay in the comments. Let me know where you're at with growing your business with a team. Let's see, we got a few other people on here. Hello, Marissa again. Hello, Matt. Hello, Cheryl. Welcome. Thanks for joining. And thanks so much for sharing the post yesterday. I really appreciate that. That was awesome. And Eric's here and Karen's here. Well, hello, everyone. Wow, it's so great to see you all here. Yay. Lots of people. So I'm actually wrapping up for those of you who are just joining, but thank you for joining. Feel free to watch the replay. It'll be ready on Facebook in a couple minutes. And I will look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks. Until next time, have a stellar day. Bye.